We want to talk about jobs and we want to talk about insurance. Why do we want to talk about insurance? Because it's basically pushing people out of their homes, pushing people out of the places that they live at. And then also on top of that, we want to talk about these mythical jobs that they made up, and then it had to be revised down by almost 1 million jobs. Make sure y'all hit a like for the algorithm, subscribe to the channel, and turn on your notifications. Let's get into it, y'all.
Let's unpack how big government spending impacts affordability in America. So the Labor Department data has now shown massive price increases since the year 2000 in several sectors with a high level of government involvement. Yes, that's right. Since 2000, hospital services, guess how much they're up? 252.5%. College tuition up almost 173%. Housing up 103% when they.
Let me add some context to this. So a lot of times y'all will see somebody say, because see the talking point that the Democratic Party and Kamala Harris are saying right now is they're saying, well, no, inflation is low now. Inflation is slightly above 2%. But it's combined been above 20-something percent, 23%, 24% since you guys have taken office. Right. Remember in 2021, inflation was above 9 and 10%. And in 2022, it was the same. Then in 2023, it was the same. And then now they're starting to get it down. But it's only been down like that over the last few months. And they're using 1 quarter of data prior to the election to try to use that as a talking point, when in reality, inflation has been up across the board. Hospital services, the cost of going to the hospital has increased by 252.5%. College tuition in one term, 3.5 years in office, have increased 173%. Housing in 3.5 years, because we ain't even gonna say just interest rates, because interest rates is still high, but housing itself, the cost of it has increased by 103%. When we talk about what it's costing the average American family, I don't think we really being honest about this, because see, they want to say that, well, if Trump takes office, it's going to cost the average American family, what, $1,700, $2,500 more, because if he institute these tariffs that Biden has already kept in place, then it's going to cost the American family more. I will tell you that your cost of living has exploded, but your wages haven't even kept up with it. And they're still passing the cost of what these bad policies and this administration is, because let's remember, they passed the CHIPS Act. They passed the infrastructure deal that had a whole bunch of other stuff in there that ain't have nothing to do with infrastructure. But these costs are up.
Put their paws in, it doesn't work out. In addition,
and this is according to the Labor Department. This isn't no, random website that you could just Google my looking at the housing.com or some crap like that. This is according to the Labor Department. Okay.
Administration has added over $1 trillion and 312 million hours of paperwork in regulatory activity so far. This is according to the American Action Forum. Let's bring in Art Laffer, former Reagan economic advisor and Laffer Associates chairman. Art, it is always great to have you. Your group committee
Jackie, it's nice to be here.
Okay, your group is obviously the Committee to Unleash Prosperity, reporting that the Biden-Harris regulations have actually costed the average American family nearly $50,000. So we're watching the DNC this week. We're not hearing specifics about the policy, but people are wondering, if we have to suffer for some reason through 8 more years of this, what would that do to the middle class? Because I think it would just crush it.
Well, I think you're correct. It will crush it. I mean, it's clear that the Biden-Harris administration has been very, very focused on increasing regulations, restrictions, requirements, of mandates, all of that stuff. And all of that adds a great deal to the expenses of a middle-class family or a...
Wait. During Kamala Harris's speech at the Democratic National Convention, they said that they were reducing regulations and they were cutting the red tape that would allow for people and businesses to be able to thrive in this economy. So you're telling me that real evidence suggests that it's been the complete opposite, and it's been a nightmare, which is also one of the contributing factors to whether or not people can be successful in the United States of America. Really? Okay. So what they said Because again, I know that people like to go based off of feeling. What they said versus what the results are is completely different.
Lower class family or an upper class family. It hits all Americans across the board, and it does nothing but damage as far as the costs go. And the benefits, as you know, often are to take away things, not add things to the economy. So it's a net loser, and that study shows that it really is a net loser and is hurting the economy a lot.
Art, we got this big downward revisions to jobs today, almost 1 million jobs. And I know that means, on one hand, that the economy is probably not quite as strong as some people have said it is. But to me, the bigger issue is the lack of trust that people have in the data that they're getting. And this number only adds fuel to that fire. How big of an issue is that, Art?
You know, I'm not involved in the collection and the analysis of those numbers like I once was. I was once chief economist at the Office of Management and Budget when it was formed in 1970, and I really got to know those numbers, Brian, really, really, really well back then. I would be shocked if the processes that are developing those numbers were changed and that there was any reason not to trust those numbers any more today than back then. Those numbers are result from surveys, et cetera, and in the revisions, they get all the final stuff in, they put it all together, and then they do a revision. I really personally I don't lose trust in those numbers. I hope other people don't either.
But here's the key, though. When they tell y'all, oh, my God, we created all of these jobs, and then they revise it down, in my opinion, that's a form of fraud. You know what that's like? Let me tell you what that's like. That's like you going in and you want to apply for a house or you want to apply for a car, right? And they say, okay, well, you're a small business or you're a person whose income is irregular. We need to see your tax returns because that's going to give us a better idea of whether or not you can actually afford it. And so one of the things about small business owners is that our incentives is to make sure that we reduce our taxes legally as much as possible so that we can ensure that we get the most bang for our buck, we increase our net worth, and then that ultimately sometimes also affects you when you go to apply for things. So I buy everything and I self-finance, but I know people, for example, that don't self-finance, and so they lean on maybe some financing here or there in order to expand their business or to buy a new home or whatever like that. And so because you're an entrepreneur and you don't have a regular W-2 paycheck, sometimes they depend on your 1040, right? And it's kind of a form of fraud of how they revise these numbers down, right? And I'm going to tell you the equivalent of why this makes sense. Because, for example, let's say, for example, you go and you file your 1040 and then you leverage that 1040 in order to get approved for financing, or you go and get a home, right? Because you know that you probably are going to have to pay more taxes in order to look better on paper so that the financiers can then say, hey, we approve you for this $1 million house, right? But then after you get approved, you go and you do a revised 1040 and you do the numbers down in order to pay less in taxes. That's more of a reflection of what your true costs are. It's a form of fraud. That's all it is. It is a form of fraud, and you finesse the finance company to look at it one way, and then ultimately you revise it down to be more reflective of what you truly were. Because we know that because you save so much money on taxes, even though you gross a lot, your adjusted gross income, your AGI, is a true reflection of what your real income is, even if you're spending more from a business perspective. Conversely, it's the same thing here, right? So what we'll get from the Biden administration is we'll get them saying, oh my God, the Democratic National Convention is up. We got all of these jobs even in this quarter. We did 1.4 million jobs. We did 1 million jobs. And then the Labor Department got to come after there. And then they say, all right, so we're going to revise the number down by 818,000 jobs because that's more of a reflection. How do you revise a number down 800,000 plus jobs? Because by the time that the American people hear the number, they don't see this part. They only seen the initial report that came out and y'all leveraged it and y'all championed it and y'all said, oh my God, we created all these jobs. No, that's a form of fraud to me. It's a form of fraud because we finessing the American people to try to convince them that the economy is good. And in this next segment, people is telling you that, hey man, these jobs don't care nothing about you when it's hard out here for a pimp. All right, let me pivot for a second. I want to talk about the insurance industry for a second, right? Big Suggs, is it an accurate point? You know what I'm saying? Is it an accurate point? Okay. Big Suggs. I'll show you, for example, it's not just what happens with jobs in the industry, it's also what's happening with housing. And it's not just the cost of housing, it's also the cost to have a house and maintain it in the first place. Check it out.
Right now at 11, it's about to get a lot harder to afford home insurance in the Bay Area. Allstate gets the green light for the highest rate hike California has seen in years.
So if your homeowner's insurance is through Allstate, you could see your bill go up by 34%, and it's going to happen soon. NBC's Jocelyn Moran joins us now in the newsroom with the details. Jocelyn.
Now, we spoke with homeowners tonight who say they are running out of options here. The rate hike depends on where you live. Here in the
You know what's so funny? I look at all of these big cameras. I look at all of those big cameras and stuff, and I see them in these news places and stuff that I'm at now and all of that. Why are they stuff so blurry all the time? They got these $50,000, $100,000 cameras inside of the studio, and they got all of these expensive wiring and super stages and TVs behind them, and they got these super sweet studios and all of this stuff, and the glass podium and stuff. And listen, I respect them because they're doing what they do, but and we got to get back to this Allstate conversation. Why is it that when you finally get them up close, for example,
tonight who say they are running out of options here. The rate hike depends on where you live.
why is it still blurry? I don't understand it. And listen, if you are new to the Millionaire Morning Show, we go off script sometimes, so we get into the weeds a little bit. I'm using the same cameras as these right here. The same camera that I got right here. It's the same camera I got right there, same camera I got right there, same camera that's over there. Sometimes I just use my iPhone, and my junk be way clearer than what they got inside of these studios. I don't understand why these cameras be so blurry, and they got these multi-$1,000 equipment and cameras and stuff. But anyways, let's get to it.
Here in the Bay Area, the biggest hikes are expected in parts of Napa and Sonoma counties, but even in the South Bay, policyholders will feel the effects when it comes time to renew.
I've been living in this area for over 15 years now, and I have noticed a significant increase in the rates for home insurance.
For more than 350,000 policyholders in California, home insurance rates are about to get higher. That's because the California Department of Insurance is allowing the state's sixth largest home insurer, Allstate, to raise home insurance rates by an average of 34%. It's the largest increase by a major insurer in the past 3 years.
It's a whopper of an increase. It's bad news, of course, for Allstate policyholders.
So what should they do? Insurance consumer advocate Amy Bach says find a good agent and do as much comparison shopping.
Because Allstate's sending you a message. If you can find a better deal, you should go for it.
State Farm is also asking the state to approve a 30% rate hike for California homeowners.
We are all wondering, what is that factor that's affecting all the home rates.
We reached out to Allstate for a statement, but did not immediately hear back.
Most of the insurers are coming in. They're saying with between prices going up, inflation, and more claims coming in, that they need these increases.
Somebody said it's blurry because of the YouTube video encoding. And no. You can upload videos. You can almost upload 5K videos to YouTube now, I think. You can upload 4K. 720 is still clear as hell. 1080p is still clear as hell. I live stream in 1080. I could live stream in 4K. I just don't want a 1 minute delay on my video. And so a 10-second delay is sufficient, but a 1 minute delay is unacceptable when it comes to live streaming. And so what you're telling me is that the editors can't edit the video down correctly to where they get the maximum output for a 1080p video or a 720p video, because a lot of these videos are 720. Come on, man. Listen, I ain't going for it, bro. I'm trying to figure out why they running these networks and why they ain't upgrade. Anyways, neither here nor there. I'm getting distracted. The fact of the matter is, in a lot of these states, including Florida and California, insurance rates are going out of control. And so not only are property taxes going up, not only is the cost of maintaining that home going up, not only is the cost of housing itself going up, not only are interest rates going up, but also insurance. Most people can't even afford to stay with the insurance for the places that they in. It's insane. The cost of living across the board. And I think that people are really not taking into consideration all of the costs that goes along with home ownership. Honestly, I don't really even care. I will say this. Let me say this really quickly. And then we're going to get to the last part of the show. We're going to do some reactions. I will say this. And, I'm going to have this conversation more extensively inside of the Patreon when we do the real estate club in a couple of weeks, because I'm preparing for that and we're going to set that up. In addition to Stock Club, by the way, and the videos and the meetups. I will say this. Even for high earners and people that make a lot of money, even with people that have a really, really, really nice net worth, even if you make $1 million a year, don't spend a lot of money on housing. Y'all not hearing me. Y'all not hearing me. Get you a decent house in a nice neighborhood, but not an expensive house that costs a lot to maintain. People don't take into consideration the amount that property taxes is going to take a bite out of you. The cost of maintenance, when you have to replace a roof, when you got to replace all of these water heaters and stuff like that. I have more respect for a person that owns their house outright and the house costs $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, and you own a house outright and you got a decent net worth and you just running it up and all of your investments and your assets is running it up, than a person that has a house note for a multi-million-dollar property. People don't understand that the property taxes that go with some of these properties, man, I've seen property taxes for some properties at $8,000 a month, $80,000 a year, multi-million-dollar property. Can you afford $80,000 a year in property taxes? I have seen property taxes for properties. I've seen the actual real documentation. I've seen the real documents of a property tax be $80,000 a year. I am unwilling to pay $80,000 in property taxes. People don't know. Oh man, I could just buy the house. No, you're going to rent it from the city. You're going to rent it from the city. And in addition to whatever the maintenance costs are, in addition to how much it costs to cut the grass, because it's going to cost you $1,000 to $1,500 a month to get the grass cut. It's going to cost you $8,000 a month in property taxes. It's going to cost you all of this in maintenance and stuff. Listen, just get a nice home that is comfortable for you, that is affordable for you, and chill. You don't have to go and live this extravagant lifestyle. Maybe you want to spend more of your money on experiences, right? Maybe you want to have more of your money in watches or precious metals. You know what I'm saying? It's something that beats the rate of inflation, but that doesn't continue to cost you. It's a whole game out here, and a lot of people don't know. They don't know. I would rather have a place that is incredibly nice and nice in the inside and fit to my liking, or a place that I stay in that, well, I ain't going to go into all of that. We're going to get there. And HOAs. So listen, man, I'm telling y'all, y'all going to get y'all head cracked thinking that y'all running up a bag and you can't maintain that junk. When the water system, you got to redo the water sprinklers and stuff. Okay. All right. They getting killed out there in Chicago. Let me read a couple.